You'll regret this for the rest of your life. My boss, Vivian Sterling, said those exact words to me that day in her corner office as I walked out the door, turning down a $2.3 million executive offer. She was completely wrong. I've never regretted it once, not for a single second. But what happened next? That's the story everyone needs to hear. My name is Sonia Martinez. I'm 31 years old living in Seattle. And 3 years ago, I made a single decision that every person in my life thought was completely insane. Let me tell you exactly why it was the single best decision I ever made in my entire life, why walking away was actually the only choice. When I joined Lumina Media in January, I thought I'd won the lottery. I was 27 years old, fresh MBA from USC with $87,000 in student debt. I'd grown up in Phoenix watching my parents clean offices so I could go to college. My father worked nights. My mother cleaned doctors' offices during the day. They'd sacrificed everything for my education. And here I was, senior content strategist at the hottest startup in Silicon Valley. Salary, $95,000 plus equity. The office had meditation rooms, free organic food, and a CEO who'd been on the cover of Forbes. I'd made it, finally. Vivian Sterling was everything I wanted to be, 42 years old, former Facebook executive. She'd raised $100 million in venture capital for the ethical social network. She wore designer suits but talked like a revolutionary. She spoke about ethical technology and conscious capitalism. I believed every word. My job was to develop content strategies that encouraged meaningful engagement instead of addiction. I had a team of 8 brilliant people. We analyzed user behavior patterns, tested new features, made strategic recommendations. The work was intellectually challenging and emotionally fulfilling. I felt like I was making the world better while building a career that would make my parents proud of their sacrifice. The company grew explosively fast, 20 million users by summer, 40 million by December. Every tech blog wrote about us. TechCrunch, The Verge, Wired. Celebrities started joining the platform, actors, musicians, athletes. Vivian was absolutely everywhere, TED Talks, podcasts, magazine covers, conference keynotes. Within a year, just 14 months after I started, I was promoted to Director of Content Strategy managing 25 people. Salary jumped to $160,000. I got significant equity. At 30, living in the Mission District, I thought I'd made it. For the first time in my life, I had real money. I sent $1,200 monthly to my parents in Phoenix, bought my father a decent used car, paid for my mother's knee surgery she desperately needed. Everything seemed absolutely perfect then. That's when the cracks started showing. A few months later, leadership meeting. Vivian stood at the front of the conference room and announced we were implementing AI-driven notification systems to increase daily active users by 40%, an aggressive growth target. I raised my hand slowly. My heart was already pounding. Isn't that exactly what we criticized Facebook and Instagram for, using psychological manipulation to create addictive patterns in users? The entire room went completely silent. Everyone turned to look at me. Vivian smiled at me, that specific smile I'd come to recognize, patient but deeply condescending, like a teacher addressing a naive child. It's different when we do it, Sonia, because our content is healthy and meaningful. We're encouraging real connection, not rage and division. But it wasn't different. It was the same manipulative tactics, just rebranded with wellness language. I let it go, told myself I was being too rigid, that growth was necessary. I shouldn't have let it go. 3 months after that, 10 p.m., I was working late and needed to video call our content moderation team in Manila. The woman who answered looked destroyed. Behind her I could see dozens of people in a cramped room, all staring at screens. Several were crying. "How long have you been working?" I asked. 14 hours, she said flatly. "Mandatory overtime. They're paying us time and a half." Time and a half of $3.50 an hour, to watch videos of child abuse, violence, and suicide for 14 hours straight. "Do you have mental health support, counseling?" She laughed, no humor in it. "We get a meditation app subscription." I felt sick. The next morning, I marched into HR. Why are our Manila moderators making $3.50 an hour with no real mental health support? Stephanie Chen, the HR director, closed her office door before answering. That's market rate for contractors in the Philippines, Sonia, and we provide wellness resources. A meditation app is not wellness support for people watching child sexual abuse 8 hours a day. This is how the entire industry operates. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everyone does this. We can't afford Silicon Valley salaries for content moderation at scale. I went straight to Vivian. She listened with apparent concern, nodded thoughtfully. You're absolutely right to raise this, but here's the reality. If we pay Manila moderators $30 an hour like our SF engineers, we'd need to raise another $50 million just for moderation. That means layoffs here. It sounded reasonable when she said it. But nothing changed. 2 months passed, no real mental health support. I followed up 3 times, each time in development or being reviewed by legal. That's when I knew something was deeply wrong. Months later, I was promoted to Vice President of Content and Community. Salary, $220,000 plus equity that would be worth millions when we IPO'd. I was invited to executive meetings, given access to company financials, made part of the inner circle. That's when I saw the real numbers. Lumina Media claimed 60 million active users. That number was in every press release, every investor pitch, every speech Vivian gave. But our actual verified human users, 38 million. The other 22 million were fake, bots, fraudulent accounts created by our own growth team to inflate numbers for investors. I found this in a quarterly review document marked Confidential Executive Eyes Only, an entire section on synthetic user generation, with spreadsheets showing exactly how many fake accounts we were creating. My hands shook as I read it. This was securities fraud. I called Thomas Park, our VP of Growth, into my office. What is synthetic user generation? He wouldn't look at me. It's supplementary accounts that seed engagement for new users, starter accounts that like and comment to make the platform feel alive. These are fake accounts, Thomas. They're engagement tools. We're lying to investors about our user numbers. We're not lying, we have 60 million accounts on the platform, that's technically true. But only 38 million are real people. He stood up defensive. Every platform does this, Sonia. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. This is standard industry practice. If we don't show growth, we don't get funding. Without funding, we die. I went straight to Vivian's office, didn't knock, just walked in. She saw my face and immediately ended her phone call. Close the door, Sonia. I closed it. Sit. I sat. Now tell me what you think you've discovered. 22 million fake users. We're committing securities fraud. Vivian leaned back in her chair, calm, patient, like a teacher explaining something obvious to a slow student. Do you know what valuation means, Sonia? Of course Valuation is a story. It's a narrative investors choose to believe. Our narrative requires user numbers that demonstrate momentum. The synthetic accounts help tell that story. By lying. By strategic framing. Facebook counted fake accounts for years, so did Twitter. When they disclose fake account removal, they're admitting those accounts existed. This is completely standard. That doesn't make it legal. Her expression hardened. Sonia, you're brilliant, but you don't understand how this world works. If we don't show growth, we get passed over. If we don't get funding, we fail. If we fail, 150 people lose their jobs. Is your moral purity worth destroying this company? I couldn't speak. You need to decide right now, she continued. Are you a true believer or just a tourist who bails when things get complicated, because changing the world requires pragmatism? She paused for effect. I'm offering you a choice. Stay, accept how the game is played and be part of something historic, or leave, feel morally superior and watch from the sidelines. But you can't stay and undermine us, so choose. I left her office feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my Mission District apartment, the apartment I could afford because Lumina paid me well, and I researched securities fraud, read about the Ranos, about WeWork, about all the companies that inflated metrics and destroyed lives. Lumina was doing the same thing. Over the next week, I discovered more. Customer service teams in India paid $2 per hour, data entry workers in Honduras making $1.75 per hour, all while Vivian gave interviews about ethical business practices. We were selling user data to advertisers despite promising we'd never do that. Our wellness features were just engagement algorithms with friendly names. Everything was a lie. One morning, Vivian called me into her office. "Sonia, you've been exceptional. I'm offering you Chief Content Officer. Your equity increases to 0.8%. When we IPO next year, that's worth approximately $6.4 million. Salary, $400,000 annually." My heart stopped. $6.4 million, $400,000 salary, financial security for life. One condition, Vivian continued, sliding a contract across her desk. Enhanced confidentiality agreements. Everything you've seen stays internal. Any violation means severe legal penalties, millions in damages. She tapped the contract. "Sign this, Sonia, and you're set for life. This is everything you came to Silicon Valley for." I stared at the numbers, the dollar signs, the equity percentages. And I thought about the woman in Manila watching child abuse for $3.50 an hour, about the fake users defrauding investors, about the lies disguised as ethics. "I need time to think," I said. "You have until Friday, 4 days, don't overthink this, Sonia. Are you in or out?" That night I called my mother in Phoenix. "Mama, I need advice." I told her everything, the fraud, the exploitation, the offer that would make me a millionaire. She was quiet for a long time. "Mija," she finally said, "your father and I cleaned offices for 20 years so you could go to college. We didn't want you to be rich, we wanted you to be good." Her voice cracked. "If you take this money that comes from hurting people, from lying, that money will rot everything it touches. You'll have a beautiful life built on ugly things." I was crying. "But Mama, with this money I could buy you a house, you and Papa could retire." "I know, Mija, and we love you for wanting that, but we would rather work until we die than know our daughter sold her soul." She paused. "What did we teach you? That how you make your money matters?" "Yes, and do you believe that?" "Yes." "Then you already know what to do." That day, I walked into Vivian's office. "I'm declining the offer. I'm resigning, effective immediately." Vivian's face went cold. "You're making the biggest mistake of your life." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." "You'll never work in this industry again. I'll personally make sure of that." "Then I'll work in a different industry." She leaned forward. "You'll regret this for the rest of your life." I looked her in the eyes. "No, I won't." I cleared out my desk that afternoon. My team was in shock. People asked why. I couldn't tell them, no NDA signed but no lawyer either. "I just need a change," I said. Some hugged me, some looked angry, some suspicious. I walked out with a cardboard box and no plan. The next 8 months were absolute hell. I couldn't find work anywhere. I was completely blacklisted. I applied to over 200 jobs, content strategy positions, marketing roles, even entry-level coordinator positions. Most companies never responded. The ones that did would schedule interviews that went great, really great, until they called my references. Then suddenly, "We've decided to go with another candidate. The position has been filled. We're restructuring the role," every single time. Vivian had kept her promise. I'd never work in Silicon Valley again. My savings ran out completely by July. I couldn't afford my $2,400 month Mission District apartment anymore. Couldn't afford to stay in the Bay Area at all. Had to leave the life I'd built, the city I'd loved, the career I'd sacrificed everything for. I moved back to Phoenix, back to my childhood home, moved in with my parents in their small 3-bedroom house at 31 years old, sleeping in my old bedroom with the peeling wallpaper I'd chosen when I was 12, listening to my father leave for work at 5 a.m., watching my mother come home with swollen knees at 7 p.m. The people I was supposed to be taking care of were now taking care of me. The shame was absolutely crushing, suffocating. Every morning I'd wake up in that childhood bedroom and remember I'd been a VP at an $800 million company. I'd managed teams. I'd presented to the board. I'd made $220,000 a year. And now, nothing. By September, I was working at Target in Tempe, Arizona, making $16 an hour, stocking shelves from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., night shift, the overnight team. Red polo shirt, khaki pants, plastic name tag, Sonia happy to help. I'd been a vice president. Now I was explaining to drunk college students at 2 a.m. where we kept the ramen noodles. My co-workers were mostly teenagers saving for college and people in their 60s, supplementing Social Security. I was the only 31-year-old with an MBA from USC and 4 years of Silicon Valley experience, putting boxes of cereal on shelves in the middle of the night. During my 15-minute breaks, I'd sit in the break room under the fluorescent lights and scroll through LinkedIn on my phone. Everyone I knew from Lumina was absolutely thriving, living their best lives. Jessica Chen, who'd been my direct report, bought a $1.8 million house in Menlo Park, posted photos of her new Tesla Model X. Her equity was worth $4.2 million. Marcus Rodriguez cashed out $600,000 in vested shares and was taking a year off to find myself, traveling through Southeast Asia. People I'd mentored, kids fresh out of college, were making $200,000 plus equity, buying houses, getting engaged, living the life I'd walked away from. And I was making $16 an hour stocking toilet paper. Let me break down what $16 an hour actually means when you're 31 with student loans. Before taxes, $2,560 monthly. After taxes, $2,100 monthly. Rent to my parents, they insisted, $700. Student loan payment, $420. Health insurance, $340. Car insurance, $110. Phone bill, $85. Gas, $95. That left me with $350 a month for literally everything else. Food, clothes, unexpected expenses, anything that went wrong. I'd gone from $220,000 a year to living paycheck to paycheck, counting every dollar, in my childhood bedroom at 31 years old. My mother would find me sometimes late at night when she got up for water, sitting at the kitchen table in the dark, staring at my phone, looking at my bank account balance. $183.47, $247.29, $319.16. Numbers that would have been lunch money in San Francisco, numbers that were now the difference between making it to the next paycheck or not. Mija, you did the right thing, she'd say, sitting down next to me. You know that, right? But I wasn't sure anymore, looking at those numbers, looking at my former colleagues' LinkedIn posts, wondering if I'd ruined my entire life over principles that didn't actually matter in the real world. Meanwhile, Lumina Media kept growing, 80 million users by months later, Vivian on more magazine covers, the company valued at $1.2 billion, rumors of an IPO in soon. If I'd stayed, if I'd signed that contract, if I'd just kept my mouth shut and taken the money, my 0.8% equity stake would be worth $9.6 million. $9.6 million. Almost $10 million I'd walked away from. To stock shelves at Target for $16 an hour. Months later, a journalist named Rachel Kim from ProPublica contacted me on LinkedIn. Ms. Martinez, I'm investigating Lumina Media. Multiple sources suggest you resigned over ethical concerns. Would you speak with me? I was terrified. Vivian's lawyers could destroy me. I had no money for legal defense. But I was exhausted from staying silent. I met Rachel at a coffee shop in Phoenix, told her everything, the fake users, the $3.50 hour moderators, the data sales, the manipulation. Do you have proof? I saved documents before I left, screenshots, financial records. I'd kept copies, not to leak them, just to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. Rachel spent 3 months investigating, found other whistleblowers, obtained internal documents, built her case. Exactly 1 year later, ProPublica published The Fraud Behind Silicon Valley's Ethical Social Network. Everything exposed, the securities fraud, the fake users, the exploited workers, all of it. Within 24 hours, SEC investigation. Within 48 hours, major investors pulled out. Within a week, valuation dropped from $1.2 billion to $200 million. Days later, I was stocking shelves in aisle 7 at Target, the cereal aisle, when my phone started buzzing non-stop in my pocket. Buzz, 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 buzz. I pulled it out, notifications flooding my lock screen. CNN breaking news alert. FBI raids Silicon Valley startup Lumina Media in massive fraud investigation. I literally dropped the box of Cheerios I was holding. It hit the floor, boxes scattered everywhere. I didn't care. I stood there in the middle of Target at 2:17 a.m., still wearing my red polo and name tag, watching the live news footage on my phone with shaking hands. FBI agents, dozens of them, walking out of Lumina's San Francisco headquarters carrying boxes of evidence, computers, file cabinets, hard drives, everything. Employees standing outside on the sidewalk looking absolutely shell-shocked, some crying, some on their phones frantically calling someone. The building I'd worked in for 2 years surrounded by federal agents and news cameras. News helicopters circling overhead, broadcasting it all live. The reporter was saying something about one of the largest securities fraud investigations in Silicon Valley history, about fake user accounts and defrauded investors and exploited workers overseas. My manager found me standing there, tears running down my face, phone in hand, cereal boxes all over the floor. "Sonia, you okay?" I couldn't speak, just showed her my phone. 2 days after that, 2 days later, I was sleeping, trying to sleep when my phone rang at 6:18 a.m., unknown number. "Hello, Sonia, it's Rachel Kim from ProPublica." I sat up immediately, fully awake. What's happening? Vivian Sterling was just arrested. About 20 minutes ago, federal agents showed up at her home in Pacific Heights. They're charging her with securities fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud and 6 other counts. I wanted you to know before you saw it on the news. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold the phone. They arrested her. She's being processed right now. Bail hearing is this afternoon. Sonia, this is happening because of you, because you spoke up. The FBI said your documents were crucial to building their case. After we hung up, I just sat there on my childhood bed in Phoenix, in my old bedroom with the peeling wallpaper, and I cried for 20 minutes straight. Not sad tears, not happy tears, just release, like something that had been crushing my chest for a year had finally lifted. By that afternoon it was everywhere, every news channel, every website, every social media platform. Vivian Sterling, former Silicon Valley darling, former magazine cover model, former TED Talk speaker. Arrested, handcuffed, led out of her Pacific Heights penthouse by federal agents while news cameras recorded everything. The company collapsed overnight, like a house of cards in a windstorm. By end of business 2 days later, every single employee laid off, 147 people, everyone gone. By the next day, the platform shut down completely. 60 million user accounts, 38 million real ones lost access, just gone, error messages, server unavailable. My phone rang constantly, text messages, DMs, voicemails, former colleagues who hadn't spoken to me in a year suddenly reaching out. Some were apologetic. "Sonia, I'm so sorry, you were right, I should have listened." Others were absolutely furious. One woman, former senior engineer, actually screamed at me over the phone. "We were going to be millionairs, Sonia. My equity was worth $2.1 million. I was going to buy a house, and you destroyed everything, you ruined everything." "It was built on fraud," I said quietly. "It was always going to collapse. WHOCAIS, we were changing the world, we were making the internet better. So what if we fudged some numbers? So what if we paid contractors market rates? The mission mattered, and you destroyed it because you couldn't handle how business actually works. It mattered to Teresa making $3.50 an hour. It mattered to the investors who were being lied to. It mattered to me." "Well, congratulations, Sonia. You get to feel morally superior while the rest of us are unemployed. I hope it was worth it." She hung up before I could respond. But you know what? It was worth it. Every single second of it was worth it. Months later, federal courthouse in San Francisco. I testified for 7 hours over 2 days. Vivian's defense team tried to destroy me, called me disgruntled, suggested I'd been fired, claimed I misunderstood the documents. But the evidence was overwhelming. Fake user data in internal spreadsheets, emails discussing the fraud, other whistleblowers confirming everything, financial records proving the exploitation. Vivian sat at the defense table in a designer suit, expressionless, the woman who'd been on magazine covers, who'd given TED Talks about ethics, who'd promised to build a better internet. Finally, guilty on 17 counts of fraud. The judge sentenced her to 12 years in federal prison. Everything she owned seized to pay restitution. The penthouse in Pacific Heights, the Tesla, the vacation home in Tahoe, all gone. Vivian Sterling, former Silicon Valley darling, was now federal inmate 94,762 at FCI Dublin. And I was still working at Target making $16 an hour. Eventually my phone rang, unknown number. Ms. Martinez, this is David Chen from Catalyst Health Tech in Seattle. We read about what you did at Lumina. We're looking for a director of ethics and compliance. Would you be interested? I almost dropped my phone. They flew me to Seattle, interviewed me, offered me the job. Salary $175,000. My job, be the person who says no when something isn't right. Make sure the company never becomes Lumina. I accepted. I'm not wealthy, I have a decent salary, small apartment in Capitol Hill, still paying off $35,000 in student loans. But I sleep at night. Last month I got an email from Teresa, one of the Manila content moderators who'd been making $3.50 an hour. Dear Sonia, thank you for speaking up when no one else would. After Lumina collapsed, I found a new job with a US company that pays me $22 per hour with benefits and real therapy sessions twice a month. My life is completely different now. You cared about us when no one else did. Thank you for that. You saved lives, including mine. Teresa. I read that email 3 times, then I called my mother. Mama, remember when you said the money would rot everything it touched? Yes, Mija. You were right, but I want you to read something. I read her Teresa's email. My mother was crying when I finished. This, Sonia, this is worth more than $10 million. She was right. People ask me all the time, do you regret walking away from $9.6 million? Here's my honest answer. Some days, yeah, I wish I was rich. It would be nice to pay off my loans, buy my parents a house, never worry about money. But do I regret the choice itself? Never, not once, not for a single second. Because here's what I learned. That money was built on lies and exploitation. The $6.4 million would have come from defrauding investors and paying workers $3.50 an hour to watch traumatic content with no support. Every dollar would have been tainted. Taking that money would have meant looking in the mirror every day knowing I'd chosen wealth over integrity. Knowing I'd become complicit in fraud and exploitation. Knowing I'd sold out the woman in Manila making $3.50 an hour so I could have a luxury apartment in San Francisco. I couldn't do that, not for $6.4 million, not for any amount of money. Vivian told me I'd regret it for the rest of my life. She was wrong. What I would have regretted, what would have haunted me forever, was signing that contract, taking that money, becoming the kind of person who looks the other way when people are being exploited because the paycheck is good. 3 years later, here's what I know. The golden opportunity everyone said I was throwing away, it wasn't golden, it was a trap painted gold. Real opportunities don't require you to compromise your values. Real opportunities don't ask you to look the other way while people are exploited. Real opportunities don't come with NDAs designed to cover up fraud. Those aren't opportunities, they're tests of character. And sometimes the most important thing you can do is fail the test, walk away, say no. I'm 31 years old. I make $175,000 a year. I live in a small apartment in Seattle. I still have student loans. I'm not rich, I'm not famous, I'm not on magazine covers. But I'm free. Free from the guilt of knowing my wealth came from other people's suffering. Free from lying to myself about what I was part of. Free from becoming someone I couldn't respect. That's the real golden opportunity I walked away from, the opportunity to become someone I despised. Vivian is in prison now. The company is gone. The $6.4 million I turned down doesn't exist anymore. The equity is worthless. But even if it wasn't, even if Lumina had succeeded and I'd be a multi-millionaire right now, even if Vivian had never gotten caught and I could have kept that money with no consequences, I still would have made the same choice. Because some prices are too high to pay, some opportunities aren't worth taking, some money costs too much. So when people ask me if I regret walking away from millions, here's what I tell them. I regret nothing. I regret nothing because Teresa makes $22 an hour now instead of $3.50, because investors got their money back, because Vivian is in prison where she belongs, because other startups think twice before exploiting workers, because I can look myself in the mirror. The golden opportunity everyone said I was throwing away turned out to be prison bars painted gold. And walking away from that wasn't failure. It was freedom. 3 years later, I sleep soundly every night. Can Vivian say the same from her prison cell? I didn't throw away a golden opportunity. I dodged a bullet disguised as gold. And that's why I've never regretted it once.